We get outside the bar and he's like, well, do you think I could get a kiss? I was like, no, there's no chance. And he goes, okay, well, which way are you walking home? I said, whatever way you're not.
I'm Andrea Gunning.
And I'm Ben Fetterman.
This is Dating Diaries, questions and confessions.
Dre, I'm hearing that some of your Hinge connections are hitting you up about the show.
Yeah, it's kind of strange because I took a little hiatus from the dating apps since I was on the shore, and now I'm kind of getting back into it, and I'm getting some feedback on the show. But I'm going to change the topic entirely. On NBC, they used to say, tonight on A Very Special Friends. Maybe it was the one where Ross and Rachel broke up or something.
Right. Or they were digging into something heavy.
Well, today is a very special Dating Diaries because it's all one person.
Unprecedented episode.
Lynette, her dating life was so crazy, and the ending was really unexpected.
Lynette just really got to us.
Lynette has moved around the country a lot for work. She's a speech therapist and works with children with special needs. She didn't really want to go on dating apps, but when you move around a lot, it can really be the best way to meet someone. And even when it doesn't work out, you at least get some stories out of it. And our girl Lynette, she's got some stories.
I talked to this guy back and forth for a while, and he was an artist and he was a poet. At the time, I was living in San Jose, and I was getting more crunchy, and I was into like spoken word poetry and all this kind of stuff. And he was really nice and he was cute. I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks when we decided to meet, and we met at a coffee shop by his house. And when we got there and he finally like smiled with like an actual smile, he had just black nubs for teeth. Like all of them. And I, of course, was trying to be polite. I teach people social skills for a living. So I just completely ignored it. He had mentioned that he was a recovering meth and heroin addict. He had failed to mention that prior. Like there was no hiding it at that point. And I was like, you know what? I'm never going to go out on a date with this guy again, but I can still show him a little bit of grace, a little bit of kindness. You know, clearly he kept it hidden on purpose because he's embarrassed. And I don't know what his story is.
That's a pretty big omission. She's a good soul.
We were talking and we had a coffee and we were chatting, and he was like, you know, I have to run home to feed my bird. So I was like, no worries. So we were basically 2 blocks from his house. So I went to his house, and here's this like African gray bird, but not a feather. The bird's like this featherless bird on this kid's shoulder. And I'm really rehashing my life at this point. And out walks this woman. And I was like, hi. And they get into a little bit of an argument, and she introduces herself as his soon-to-be ex-wife. And I was like, okay. And she was haggard, like she had been through it. She was very nice to me. She wasn't looking at me like this or like that, whatever.
I was thinking that story couldn't get any worse. But then it can always get worse.
She had like a couple pieces of furniture left in the house that were hers, and she was there to get them out of the house because she had moved. And he was kind of shocked that she was there and was apologizing to me like, I'm so sorry, I didn't know she was going to be here. So I was like, well, you know, I have an SUV. So whatever's in the house, if you want to put it in my SUV, I'll take it to your new house. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, you know what? It was like a good exit for me. Like, I was like, I'm going to just help her and then I'm going to go. And he was like, I understand. That's how the date ended. You know, I helped his soon-to-be ex-wife move the rest of her furniture out of the house. People don't believe me, but I'm like, I swear I can't make this stuff up. I'm not that creative.
Lynette does work with very young children. She has a way about her.
I can be very stern and quick if I need to be, but I try not to be. I mean, look what I do for a living. I meet people at the worst moment of their life when they found out that their kid has autism or their kid's never going to speak again or something. So just by my nature, I tend to be an extra gentle person to the people that I meet, because I've seen people walk through really hard times. So this whole dating experience for me, I treated it like work. You know, I treated it like these are some people who need a little support.
I guess this guy's profile is all pictures of him smiling with his mouth closed. Just like a shit-eating grin. I guess, right? And I can't blame the guy because he knows that if he shows what he's got working underneath, it's not going to be good.
Don't sleep on the profile angle. It could just be a profile shot of his face. Just a bunch of those. Left side, right side.
Listen, the no teeth is a big reveal. And I can't fault someone for putting up the most flattering photos. Obviously, the most flattering angle for this human being is not showing his grill. And he's shooting a shot. Like, I couldn't imagine carrying that elephant on my back to a first date of like, the time's gonna come. I'm gonna say hello. And she's gonna see literally black nubs in my mouth.
At what point are you being deceptive versus being vulnerable and being open? Because ultimately we're all looking for love. He may feel that insecurity that this is going to be a non-starter for love.
Yeah. They were talking on the apps for 6-7 weeks. That's a long time. And I don't know what the right move is here, Ben. Because honestly, because you have no teeth, you have to have a disclaimer that, hey, FYI, I'm a recovering meth addict. It's a lot to hit somebody as you're just casually talking and lining up a date.
I don't even know if that's something you have to put out there in every circumstance. Like, there's a level of getting to know someone and sharing your history. But the fact that they were talking for 6 to 7 weeks, that's something that should come up at some point. You know, the teeth thing, that's all physical, right? Everyone may deal with that differently. But that's something that he's dealing with. And the fact that he didn't share it after talking for all that time, that's a major problem for Lynette.
She handled it beautifully. Like, I honestly need to take some cues from Lynette. Like just listening to her story, like, I've learned how to better conduct myself. I mean, how gracious and supportive, because what she said was he must have been so embarrassed. And not because that's how he showed up. She determined that he was embarrassed because he omitted it. If you would just decide to be vulnerable and you open up and say, I'm not going to be embarrassed about who I am. You're either going to like me or you're not. As long as you're owning your life and your experience and your truth, it's up to the other person to do what they will with it. And it's not about that. It's the fact that he didn't give her the disclaimer of like, listen, I'm a recovering addict. This is something that I'm dealing with. And it's hard because when you're only talking to someone for a few weeks, maybe that's something that people have to work up towards. But that's a big part of who you are and your story. I think someone who's willing and getting involved should know sooner rather than later. There's so much to be said for some confidence and ownership over where you are and who you are.
Yeah. Now, for Lynette, the date didn't end at the teeth.
Yeah, the date didn't end with the teeth. She goes back to the house. You've set up a date, and then all of a sudden, into the date, you have to go fucking feed your bird, Captain Jack Sparrow. And then out of nowhere, a woman comes out of a room, and it's his ex-wife. What a fucking disaster. The first time I was listening to Lynette's story, I was like, I cannot believe this human being is helping this man's ex-wife move. But if that was my only form of exit and to exit gracefully, I probably would have loaded the bed frame into my Jeep too. I kind of understand. She needed a clean getaway.
You would think Lynette would find a matchmaker or join a convent, but she's kind-hearted. So she tried online dating again.
I was talking to this guy. He was working at UCSF and, talked to him for a while. He was a little bit older than me. He said he was like 45. So I wasn't that much older, but I was like, okay, like we had talked for a while. If they're not super creepy on the phone, they're not going to be super creepy in person. And I can generally handle myself.
They decided to meet up for a drink.
He's sitting on a stool sort of by the door. And I was like, hey. And he was clearly in his mid-60s. And he was in a janitor outfit, right? So he had played it off that he was a professor at UCSF and he was a janitor. And he had played it like he was in his mid-40s, he was in his mid-60s. Now, here's the catch. I don't care if you're a janitor. I've dated janitors. Like, it's not that big of a deal. I've dated pediatricians. Like, it didn't matter to me. Like, if you're a good person, you're a good person regardless. I cared that he lied. He lied about his age. He lied about his work. And then the date began with him just apologizing to me. So he was like, do you want a beer?
That's a no for me, dog.
And I was like, actually, no, I don't. I'm just going to have a drink of water because I didn't want him to feel like I owed him something for buying me a drink. Like, I was just angry at that point because he had lied to me for so long. So we're like just chit-chatting and I'm having my drink of water. And then he was like, you know what, I'm really sorry. And I was like, listen, like, you didn't have to lie. It wouldn't have been a big deal. I said, your age, more of a deal because, you know, you're my mom's age at this point. But you know what? We could have been friends. Like, it didn't have to be like this. So he's like, at least let me walk you out. I was like, okay. So I get down off my stool and I look over and I look down and I thought he fell off the stool. So like I reached down to help him up and he was in fact just a little person, which he also didn't tell me. I was like, what is happening at this moment? Like, it didn't matter that he was a little person. It didn't matter that he was a janitor. It didn't matter that he was 65 years old. The thing that matters is everything that he kept from me because we had been talking to each other for weeks at this point. So we get outside the bar and he's like, well, do you think I could get a kiss? I was like, no, there's no chance. There's no chance that's gonna happen today. And he goes, okay, well, which way are you walking home? I said, whatever way you're not. So he was like, okay, I get it. You know, and I was like, have a good night. And I just was walking home. I was like, is this freaking serious? You know? But then I felt bad because I really thought he fell and he was just short.
Lies. People lie all the time about who they are.
Lying due to what you feel is not enough. These themes that we're hearing in these first two stories, these are universal. It's about having some confidence in yourself and some confidence of who you are. And just because the person sitting on the other side of that table may not be right for you on this specific date, the next one might be.
Like, it's so immature. And it just makes me sad that there's someone out there that's 60 years old that can't own where they are in their life after all of this time. Why I appreciate Lynette so much, it's like, it's not about your age. It's not about your job. We saw how accepting and willing she was going to go see the bird with the other guy. Like, she would have probably had a few drinks with this guy, you know, just to get to know him. She's just looking to meet people. And this person missed an opportunity to connect with someone because they're just insecure with what they're bringing to the table. When you start off a relationship on lies, you're on your heels. How are you going to propel forward?
You're never going to find what you're looking for if you're focused on the things that are not enough and you're not honest about who you are as a person.
You know what's been a big thing for me to figure out what I should be honest about?
What's that?
I'm prescribed medicine for anxiety. But a lot of people have preconceived notions as to what people with anxiety look like, how they behave, what they're capable of. And so for me, it's like, I'm not going to tell you that unless I feel comfortable and that I can trust that you understand where I'm coming from. Because a lot of people would write, oh, this person's got baggage. It's not baggage. All of this is to say, like, I hold back on a piece of information until I'm comfortable with revealing that. And everyone's doing that. But when I do have that meaningful conversation, I'm going to own what it is, you know? But in this case, you have a guy who can't own his career, can't own his age, and can't own his height at all.
From the first date we heard about into this one, Lynette had no time for the lies.
I'm glad that she was honest, that she was pissed off about it and communicated that. She's so confident. In that moment, she's like, nope, I'm having a water. Once I'm finished this, I'm gone. She had such clear boundaries. I mean, it's pretty crazy that at the end she leaves and he walks her out and he still is like, well, can I get a kiss?
You gotta shoot your shot.
I mean, he shot a shot. But I bet he felt confident enough to ask that because she was nice to him. She didn't take the asshole way out and just treat him like shit. She treated him with dignity, and he still was an asshole back to her. He's lied to her this whole time, and then he has the balls to ask for a kiss. And it's like this human being is so fucking lost and can't even read the situation.
I think he was feeling energetically that this person actually gave him the time of day, unlike other people that he's probably gone out with.
Yeah. And then he's like, what direction? Just like, I'm going anywhere without you. Like, fucking read the room, bro.
So now the question is, will Lynette go back into the wilderness?
I completely denounced online dating. And I'd moved back home. My dad had passed, and my hobby had always been work or something related to work. So I was looking to fill my time with something that was not work related. One of the cafes had a bocce league. It was called Glow Ball. And it was a nighttime sort of like bocce and drinks kind of a thing. So like old Italian people play bocce. It's kind of like lawn bowling, for lack of a better term. Like, it's ridiculous. But I recruited my friend from work, this guy that had also been living in the neighborhood who was also single. It wasn't for singles, but it was kind of like just something to do. We joined up with this team, and no one had ever played bocce before. So we were just this group of ragtag people. The one couple that was on our team were like the cutest couple. They were like really fun, really well matched, like really nice. So I was like, how did you guys meet? You guys are such a cute couple. And they were like, oh, we met online. And I was like, get out. I'm like, this doesn't happen online. And they were like, no, really? And they had gone on about all their horrible dating stories and everything. And then, they found each other and it was great. And they were so happy and they had just gotten engaged. And I was like, not looking to get married, but I was like, man, it would just be nice to have somebody around. You know what I mean? Like, just have a companion.
Yep, I feel you, especially now.
At that point, I knew I was getting older and I resigned to the fact that I was never going to have kids. I would like to just find someone to share life with, kind of a thing. So I went online. They were using OkCupid, which was kind of notorious as like a hookup online dating site. So I was like, oh, but you know what? Maybe this could be something. So made a profile, and it was sort of like a shot in the dark kind of thing. I didn't meet anybody, like all these creeps. And then there was Mike. I was the one who messaged Mike first. He had a Tom Waits lyric on his profile. And I was like, oh, he likes Tom Waits, okay.
A music connection. This is already romantic.
And then at the very end, he had a disclaimer. I'm a single father to 3 young children. So we talked and we talked and we talked. And then I heard his story and he heard my story, and he sent me a picture of the kids. The first time I met him, I went to his house and we hung out in the backyard. The kids were inside. His grandmother was living with them. He was taking care of her too. And we hung out outside and just like drank tea. And I was joking, like, this is like the high school boyfriend I never had, like hanging out in the backyard kind of a thing. And then it was our first date that the babysitter bailed. And I was like, listen, I'm not trying to meet the kids early, but I really like you. I want to spend more time with you. What would you be doing right now since we're not going to be going on a date? He was like, well, I'm walking to the park to take the kids to the park. And I was like, if it's okay with you, can I just be a woman at the park? He was like, I was going to suggest it, but I didn't want you to feel pressure that I was trying to make you meet my kids and this kind of thing.
We've said it before. Just put out your intention. So she did. He was into it.
I was talking to my friend from California on the phone. I'm like, I've been talking to this guy and we've hung out a few times and he's really kind of great and he's got 3 kids and all this stuff. And she's like, that's a lot for you. And I was like, no, it's not. Like, it's not a lot for me. There's just something really special about him. And I was like, well, here they come, I gotta go. Over the little hill is Mike, my hun, and 5-year-old little chubby meatball Mikey. And in a radio flyer wagon are these 2 little chumps, Bastian and Joseph, who are twins, but are like a meatball and a breadstick, like they're totally fraternal. And they come over this hill and Mikey walks right up to me and says, hi, my name's Mikey. I'm 5. I like dinosaurs. Do you want to play? I was like, hi, Mikey. I'm Lynette. And the twins at that point didn't talk. They were just like, like growling and like stomping on things.
It was natural. These 3 little kids came right over to her. and she's been there ever since.
To this day, Mikey tells the story of when we met at the park. He thinks that's when all of us met, like me and Daddy met at that moment was the moment we all met at the park.
So what is it about this guy with 3 little boys? Lynette told us about an awful day they had spent in New York. Everything went wrong. One of the boys fell sick. It was a 100-degree summer day. Their crappy hotel had 1 bed and no air conditioning. Lynette was crying under her 1/5 of a blanket.
They had just turned 3 years old. I'm crying, thinking like, what did I do to deserve this? And here's Mike. He's like, we're gonna camp out on the floor. We're gonna make a nest. And he got extra blankets, and he got extra sheets, and he got all the towels, and he makes this puffy little nest on the floor. And the twins were like, yay! And they jump in and go right to sleep. And I was like, I don't deserve him. There's nothing he can't handle, and he makes everything better.
And she felt terribly sick too. But it never occurred to her what was really happening.
Honestly, I was told I couldn't get pregnant. That's why I just gave up on trying to find somebody. But after that trip, I took a pregnancy test and found out I was pregnant. I didn't want to know the baby was going to be a boy or girl. So my gynecologist kept everything secret from me, and they were very careful with not telling me. But as I was looking through the LabCorp results on my phone, at the very end, it said, no Y chromosome detected, consistent with female fetus. And I was like, no, I screamed. Mike comes running in, the poor guy. He's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm like, it's a girl. And again, he makes everything better. And he burst into tears and he said, what a gift. We have a little girl. You know, I yelled and screamed and cursed. And he was like, what a gift. She's the first little girl in his family in 40 some years. And my family had taken on the boys. I think the first time my mom met Mike and the boys, within the first hour of meeting them, my mom pulls Mike aside in the backyard and says, Mike, I want you to know that the greatest gift you're going to receive when you marry Lynette is me for a mother-in-law.
You didn't think this story would end without an Italian mother-in-law, did you? But here's the part that really resonates.
I didn't need a knight in shining armor. I never have. I wasn't raised that way. And he didn't need a savior. But the two of us came together because we were meant to be together.
First of all, I love how she had to explain what bocce is. I was in a bocce league, okay? I once had high hopes for meeting a normal person at the bocce league.
That quickly subsided.
Yeah, it's not my demo. That said, I like barroom athleisure, but I actually haven't met someone that's met on the apps and had a successful relationship in a really long time. So I feel like I need to meet a success story in person to make me feel a little bit less jaded about the apps.
Lynette said the same thing. We look for success. There's so many options out there. What worked for you? I want to try that.
I mean, the way that she said it kind of breathed new life into my outlook, especially as like my summer's coming to an end. I'm going to be thrown back into the wild world of Philadelphia again. It's a numbers game, you know? It's like you're going to have to kiss a lot of frogs. You're going to have to deal with the weird stories. That's part of the process. But eventually you may find your Mike. You know what she said? And it hit me in the fucking feels. She's like, I didn't need the knight in shining armor.
That wasn't what she wanted. She wasn't looking for that person.
It's as simple as two people that were ready and open and looking for companionship, and they found each other. It's like that simple.
But also no expectations. She didn't hold this person to a higher standard. She accepted him for who he was and what he was bringing. And she had some acceptance on what her life looked like. She had let go of the idea of having children.
I think what I'm learning is that Lynette knows who she is. Lynette knows how to communicate from a place of her own worthiness and identity and what's right for her and what's wrong for her. And she can communicate from a place of confidence. Everything else she can let go of. I dated someone with kids, and we dated for 3 months before I met his daughter. I did not have confidence to say, I want to meet your kid, because I was scared of putting too much pressure on it. She has such a weightlessness to her that allows her to honor people with dignity and honor herself with dignity. She's fucking cool as shit.
It is a perfect example of really being confident in yourself as an individual to find ultimately what you're looking for. It seems like Mike brought her an amazing gift of love and family and what she's been looking for, whether she had expectations of it or not. And he gave her this amazing gift of a little baby girl. Really sweet story.
What a journey. We heard 3 different dating experiences from one person. She went from omissions to lies to finally finding true love where she least expected it. It's so sweet.
Dre, I want to know who has been ghosted, straight up left high and dry, CIA style.
And I know why, Ben. This season, we're doing the Ghost of the Year Awards. Win a sweet prize pack for a perfect night home alone, and all you have to do is send us your ghosting story. Win everything you need for a perfect night home alone. Dating Diaries blanket, meal delivery, and a trophy to show off on social media.
Email us at datingdiariespod@gmail.com. Something good should come of getting ghosted.
And if you like what we're doing, please give us a 5-star review. Listen, I could use an ego boost every once in a while. We'll see you next week. Stay safe out there, guys.
This podcast is hosted and executive produced by me, Andrea Gunning. Executive produced by Nancy Glass, Ben Fetterman, and Carrie Hartman. Produced by Julie Clark and Brianna Fars. Edited by Matt Delvecchio. Thanks to production coordinator Megan Paisley. The show is mixed by Dave Saya. Special thanks to Mybe Music. Some names have been changed to protect privacy.